Freddie Coleman, as always, from ESPN with us here on the Friday show. It's Big Board Sports on 104.5, the team ESPN Radio. Freddie, good morning.
Good morning, Roger. How are you today, my man?
We're good, Freddie. Everything is good. Beautiful weekend, some college football. Looking forward to that tomorrow, and then settle into the NFL and the crazy game last night. I got to ask you, though, what was your, right, just because it was on the tip of my tongue before I went to the break, what'd you think of Marshawn Lynch last night? Charging the field from the sideline when he wasn't any part of that play.
Well, Marshawn Lynch, his heart may have been in the right place because Marcus Peters on the other side, those two guys have a friendship. They're cousins. They're related, as a matter of fact. So I know that his heart was in the right place to try to calm things down, but you can't do that. Number one, come off the sidelines when you're not involved in the play. And number two, put your hands on an official. But typical Marshawn Lynch, and I mean this in a good way, most guys would have gone to the locker room, stewed, maybe kicked a locker or two or punched a locker. Instead, he goes into the stands to watch the rest of the football game with fans in Oakland, and that's what you get when you get a Marshawn Lynch, who is not a bad guy. I don't want people to even think that for 1 second that he is. But you can't do those two things. Come on the field when you're not involved in the play and put your hands on an official. He deserved to be ejected.
Raj, don't you know that in Marshawn Lynch's mind, he's part of every play? Don't you know that by
now? I should know that by now. Is he going to get fined $39,000 for that?
Well, he got fined already because you put your hands on an official. That's at least a $30,000 fine.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he's going to get suspended one game, but I think the NFL will take everything into consideration. But it wouldn't surprise me if he got suspended one game, too.
Well, the ending was pretty interesting, Freddie, with Oakland having 3 chances and finally cashing in on a touchdown and a wild ending against the Chiefs.
Well, I'll say this about Thursday Night Football this year. Nobody can complain because it seems like every week we've gotten something along the lines of Rams 49ers. We had the Patriots Buccaneers. We had this game. We had the Eagles and the Carolina Panthers. Thursday Night Football has been really, really good this season, and it was not just an exciting game, but despite a couple of officials' calls here and there, gentlemen, that was a pretty well-played game. Yeah. Alex Smith played extremely well. Derek Carr being back in that line, you see what he does for the Oakland Raiders. That was as fun of a game as you could want, whether it was a Thursday night game, a Sunday afternoon game, or a Monday night game. So far, so good, the NFL, with Thursday Night Football so far this year.
Yeah, I'm sure the ratings last night were phenomenal. The baseball game was a total blowout with the Dodgers and the Cubs. So great game, KC, Oakland. Freddie, last week the Giants did the unthinkable. They did go to Denver and win and get into the win column. Can they do it again and get on a roll? And can they beat Seattle at MetLife on Sunday?
Sure, they can beat Seattle on Sunday if they do the same things they did last week. That is, you have to run the football effectively. And Wayne Gallman, their rookie out of Clemson, I told people before the season that this guy could have an impact on this football team. I thought he was drafted too low in the draft earlier this year in the NFL. And I think we're starting to see exactly that when you put him on the field, he can make some plays for your football team. And the defense got after the Denver offense that if they're not able to run the football, Trevor Siemian is not good enough of a quarterback to beat you with his arm and beat you by pushing the ball down the field. But now you're facing a Seattle team that they know exactly what's going on in their division, where the Rams are doing what they've been able to do. You can't forget about the Arizona Cardinals now because they get Adrian Peterson. They believe they're going on a roll. So the Giants are to do the same things they did last week, reduce the pressure on Eli Manning, make sure you run the football effectively, and have your defense play lights out like we saw against Denver. But Seattle's offense, even though the offensive line is not that good, is better than Denver because they can push the ball down the field. That is something the Giants are going to have to be aware of because Denver did make some plays down the field, but they were not able to cash it in when they got inside the red zone.
Freddie, the good News Channel 13 employee in me wants to play up this Super Bowl rematch, Falcons-Patriots Sunday night on NBC, but I'm having a hard time figuring out what these two teams are coming off the Super Bowl. Can you help us make some sense of what's going on with Atlanta and New England right now?
Well, here are two things that we know about this game coming in. Number one, don't be surprised the Patriots lose at home because we've seen that this year. They lost to Kansas City opening night, and they lost to the Carolina Panthers at home. So we've seen the Patriots now win big games at home against top-flight competition or teams that we believe are top-flight competition. And number two, with the Atlanta Falcons, we know how great they are offensively at times, but they've really sputtered. They really made those careless mistakes with the football, whether it's Matt Ryan or they're running the football or receivers having drops. So those two things coming in, we know. I know the window dressing is it's a rematch of the Super Bowl last year, and we're going to hear 28-3 all throughout the weekend. But if you're the New England Patriots, your pass defense is not going to get any better over 1 week. So you have to hope that your offense can continue to score. And if you're the Atlanta Falcons, you have to be better with the football, especially in inside the red zone. You can't just be freewheeling, throwing the ball all over the place and think that your defense is going to have your back, because that's not going to be the case if they do that again versus New England on Sunday.
Freddie, Buffalo's 3-2. They're right behind New England in that division. Miami is 3-2 as well. If you're the Bills, you're thinking maybe you're turning the corner a little bit this year under a new coach. Don't you have to beat Tampa at home on Sunday?
Especially a reeling Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, because they have a quarterback in Jameis Winston who's dealing with a shoulder injury. They're dealing with a defense that has absolutely no confidence right now, and you can make plays against them. If you're the Buffalo Bills, though, you are not good enough to say to anybody or to say to yourself, hey, we can just go out there and play and we're going to win. You are still the Buffalo Bills of 2017. You're not the Buffalo Bills of 1993. They better get that in their minds really quickly, because their margin for error is going to be razor thin, especially when a mistake here against them can cost them a football game. Yeah, Tampa Bay is reeling coming in, but a reeling football team can be a very dangerous football team, because they know that if they lose this game, making the playoffs is going to be very difficult for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you're the Buffalo Bills. You play the same way you played all year long up to this point. You don't take anything for granted, and you look at every opponent, you treat them like the New England Patriots, because you are not good enough to say, we're just going to put our helmets out there, walk out on the football field, and the other team is going to bow down.
All right, Freddie, you know me. I need a lot of help, so I'm hoping you can help me here the same way you did with Atlanta and New England. Jets and Dolphins. Miami wins at Atlanta. Who can explain that other than, I guess, the Falcons giving it to them? And the Jets look good for the first half against the Patriots and then can't muster too much offense after that. A game that actually doesn't include a team with an under 500 record. What do you make of Jets-Dolphins Sunday?
Completely surprising, number one, because I thought for sure the Jets would have at least one win going into this game, and that would have been against the Cleveland Browns. And you're right how they played early offensively, but it's kind of hard to slow down the Patriots offense when they get going. But people talk about the Dolphins and the Falcons giving it back to them, and part of that's true. But the Dolphins' defense is really, really good. Their front seven is really good, led by Ndamukong Suh, and they're not bad in the secondary. So that defense is coming along pretty well. But if you're the Miami Dolphins, you have to expect that Jay Cutler is going to have one of those throws that'll leave you shaking your head. And the Jets' defense hasn't been bad this year. Jamal Adams, the safety, has been terrific. He's an early candidate for Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's how good he's been for the New York Jets. So this is the kind of game where you look at that and you say, okay, if Jay Cutler makes a mistake, unlike what we thought about the Jets before the season, the Jets' offense may be good enough to turn that mistake into 7 points. So that could be a possibility with the New York Jets. It's going to be very interesting, especially when the last time these two teams met, the Miami Dolphins just completely laid an egg against the New York Jets. I want to see if they're going to do that again, if they can rebound and make the adjustments, or if Jay Cutler is going to be Jay Cutler again. And we know no good comes out of that if you're an offense with Jay Cutler as your quarterback.
Freddie, did the Yankees win tonight in Houston, or do we see a Game 7 of that series on Saturday night?
I think we see a Game 7 because, and the one thing about this series, and I warned people, I said the New York Yankees are better than you think. And even when they were down 2-0, people are trying to throw dirt on their season, Roger. And I said, well, it's not as if Houston ran away and hid from them. They won both of those games 2-1. Look what the Yankees were able to do at home. They used the energy of that crowd. They were able to have the fever of that crowd, and they propelled them, especially after being down 4-0 at one game of the series in New York. But Justin Verlander going on the mound, this is why you brought him in if you're Houston. Severino is not bad on the other side, but Justin Verlander lives for these kind of moments. I think we find our way to a Game 7 and a winner-take-all. And I tell you what, if that's going to be the case, I hope a lot of people tune in, not just to see a Game 7, but to see how good Aaron Judge is and Jose Altuve is and the Todd Frazier, all those guys. It has been a really fun series, and I think we all need a Game 7, unless you're a Yankees fan and you just want the Houston Nationals out of the way so you can move on and get ready for the Dodgers.
All right, so Freddie, you may have just answered my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. If that Game 7 exists Saturday night, you've also got Michigan, Penn State, USC, Notre Dame. You have the choice to watch one of those games. What are you watching?
Come on, Freddie.
I'm watching Game 7. I mean, I love college football, and believe me, you made a great point about those matchups, but those are two of the sweetest words in sports. Game 7. You give me a Game 7, and especially in a place in Houston where they've gone through so much, dealing with the Hurricanes earlier this year, and the Yankees a year or two ahead of schedule, being the Yankees team that a lot of people wondered what we were going to see. You give me a Game 7, I'm going to watch that, and I'll watch the highlights of USC and Notre Dame and Michigan and Penn State after that. Game 7 is always going to rule the day for me.
Well, you know what I want to do? I want to get done with this radio program at noon, get in the car, go 88, 81, 80 and go to State College, Pennsylvania, and begin a tailgating weekend and watch Penn State and Michigan at 7:30. That's what I really want to do.
You can't do it like you used to.
It's a whiteout, too, so you know they're going to be amped up for that football game, especially what happened last year when Penn State got the full beat out of them by Michigan. But I'm with you, Roger, and that's why I'm glad I got picture-in-picture on my TV. I can watch both if I want to, but Game 7 is going to get the main screen, and Michigan, Penn State, and USC Notre Dame are going to have to fight it out on the lower part of the screen.
All good. Hey, Freddie, keep up the great work. Love listening to you every night, and we certainly, truly appreciate you coming on every Friday with us here on Big Board Sports.
My pleasure, gentlemen. You guys have a great weekend as well, and I'll talk to you next week.
You got it, Freddie. That's the great Freddie Coleman.